the way I look at metaphor, similar to you, is that it's I see it as the basic unit of a story. It's the basic unit it's basically a representation of something or a concept with emotional value. And it's controversial because a lot of people would disagree with that, and I'd love to have that conversation.
I'm sure they'll let you know.
Yeah, exactly. But all perception is based on this idea that when we have a concept, like, have you ever heard of Lisa Feldman Barrett?
No.
She wrote this book called How Emotions Are Made. It's fantastic. I actually refer to her as Her Holiness Lisa Feldman Barrett.
Oh, wow.
I think she's amazing. I've learned a lot from her.
Okay.
And she wrote this great book, and she talked a lot about like the contemporary idea of how we develop concepts, and concepts are largely defined by our goals or objectives. Like, for example, this is a glass because it holds something and we can drink from it. So my objective is to drink from it. So anything that we can hold liquid and drink from is a kind of, well, glass or receptacle or cup or something like that. So that's how we define things. That's a concept. But it's not until it has an emotional significance, that we've assigned an emotional significance internally, that it becomes a metaphor. And I believe that's true with any kind of representation. As soon as it has an emotional connection in your subconscious, then it's metaphoric. So when, earlier I mentioned that story is about excavating or searching your unconscious for the metaphors that mean something to you. What we're really trying to do is all of us dream. All of us try to we're constantly adapting to the world around us, which means our value systems are shifting, like, as we adapt. If there's some sort of massive trauma, it causes a dramatic shift in the way we interpret the world around us. Story, in many ways, is a way of engaging traumas. So that's why you're literally taking a character, putting them through a trauma, and forcing a kind of shift in their value system. That's how we get into character arc. And that's ultimately what a theme is. A theme is basically saying that the life is going to impose certain traumas on you, and we have to adapt to it. And that's ultimately like where we find meaning. So when I say meaning, like, what does meaning mean to you?
Well, for an example, I think meaning can be contagious. So let's say I went into
That's
a donut shop. This actually happened to me. A donut shop near downtown LA. They were watching, is it a telenovela or telemundo? Yeah. So they were, and I just a little bit of Spanish that I understand. But everyone was riveted. They were sitting in this donut shop, even the girl behind the counter. And so because of that, I was like, wow, what is it? So that gave me some meaning for what I was watching, even though I barely understood what was being said. Because I was fascinated by the actress's reaction, what was happening. I guess a man was breaking into her home, and so just watching how everybody wasn't even paying attention to the coffee and donuts. They were all about what was up on that screen.
That's fascinating.
So I know that's a little bit of a tangent, but the meaning became contagious to me now, because I'm fascinated by it. Yeah. I don't follow the show. I'm not sure who the actress is, but I'm fascinated. Why do they invest this time?
Do you remember the scene?
Yes, it was an actress, attractive actress, was somewhere in her home, and there was a man outside breaking in, and the camera kept switching to her being scared inside and the man outside, and it almost seemed like the man knew her. But that's the meaning I gave it. Is that
and you didn't understand the language at all.
Didn't understand.
But you were just drawn into the narrative.
I was drawn
anyway.
into it, and I was drawn into how the people were drawn into it.
Yeah. So you saw everyone around you expressing high priority attention. That's what attention is you're giving priority, a kind of mental loan to that subject matter. And that actually gets into what I think is the most interesting part of story, is that it is contagious. Story is about building group values, ultimately, which is where, we get back to Durkheim again, is that ultimately we are building a kind of consensus, a kind of, it's not universal, it's usually group specific kind of value systems that connect to this group. So these metaphors become very important. Like this girl who felt threatened and she was trapped in her apartment, everybody had invested in her. So they had the concept of the girl and then the emotional attachment to her. Or it's like Joseph Campbell says, like, tragedy is, how does he say it? Tragedy is the attachment to forms and the shattering of that attachment. And then comedy is, the effortless kind of disregard or detachment from things. And I think at the core, that's ultimately where we're talking about the emotionality of something. Also, like with Pilar Alessandro. She's a friend of mine as well.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, she's great. She always says that story is an event plus emotion, or event plus emotion equals story. She always puts it as an equation. I love that because it's exactly true. Without the emotion, it's not a story. It's just a series of events, albeit logical. But it's not until it's emotional that it means something. So for me, earlier we were talking about meaning, and meaning is the resonance with that central value system that we all develop, that each of us develop, that sacred and the profane, and then all the priorities that proliferate from there.